Innovation, imagination, wonder. These are just some of the words used to describe Dr. Harvey Passes. Dr. Passes explores interesting people and ideas that will stimulate you. He questions the people who develop, create, and employ novel concepts in business and everyday lives. He especially loves to speak with successful people. How did they do it? How can you do it too? So let's join Dr. Harvey Passes in his quest of wonder and curiosity as we watch Dr. Harvey Passes Presents.
You are in for a treat today. Today, I am so pleased I'm going to do one of my most favorite shows of all. You've seen this in the past. I call this the anatomy of success. And every now and then I come across someone who just impresses me. Don't get all embarrassed here now. Someone who impresses me. Someone who I just think possesses all the skills, whether he or she was taught or whether they have it innately. But they just know how to provide and produce a successful business experience or anything else in their lives. And frankly, from these people, I usually gain some information, and it makes me a better individual by learning all the things that they have done. So I came across an individual who I've been acquainted with for years, and I've been a patron of his different establishments. And it just hit me some weeks ago when I saw him at one of his restaurants, and I said, you know, I'd love to do a show with you. And he said, what are you talking about? And I explained, and he said, gee, I've never done anything like that. So I coerced him, I twisted his arm, I did everything I could, and I got him down here. I want you to meet a terrific guy, Gillis Pole. Gillis, put it there.
Thank you, Harvey. Appreciate that.
You like that opening?
Like the accolades.
You like that accolades, okay? Well, the show is over. Goodbye. No.
Thank you.
Gillis is a very interesting individual. Gillis, we're going to get into his history and what he's done, but just to tell you, this man is personally involved in 6 restaurants, and maybe tangentially with some others. But he's involved, and these restaurants are all very well known in Nassau County, especially in the North Shore. I was almost going to say the North Fork, on the North Shore of Long Island. You got Bryant and Cooper, Cipollini, Toku, Major Steakhouse in Woodbury and East Meadow. You got the recently acquired George Washington Manor. By the way, he left his teeth there, and if you can find it as a dentist, I would love to see them. Okay, and also you got a new one coming up in Wheatley Plaza. It's some kind of French bistro you're going to make.
Exactly.
It'd be, I call it fantastique. But
we might start with an F, actually. Yeah.
Fantasia. Anyway, so I got to tell you something. You've seen me speak with various people on this show from some incredible walks of life, from winemakers to, say, pen makers to, it goes on and on, anything. But I got to tell you, to me, the all-time hardest business to run is a restaurant. He looks at me like, I don't know, it's a piece of cake. Right. Killer business. And yet, he handles it. And he handles it with just elegance and grace. This guy is terrific. So we're going to learn how he is able to operate a business. This show is not about food. This show is not about restaurants. It's all about the business of being a restaurateur. And what he talks about, you can use for your business. So now I'll shut up and we'll start talking. Hey, welcome back.
Good to see you again.
Okay. First question I want to ask you is, how do you define success?
Well, I think that health is the most important. Your mother always teaches you health is most important.
Without that,
but success is, I believe, when you achieve and develop the challenges that are in your soul, in your body, that you say to yourself, gee, can I do that? And you go after it and you do it. And if you do it and you do it well, I consider that successful. And to be happy.
And to be happy.
Is to be, so you should be healthy, you should be happy. And if you can achieve your goals, makes you successful.
What more do you want?
Right.
Absolutely. The goals could be your business, could be your family, it's your
be
goal.
Exactly.
Now, you're in, obviously, the restaurant business and the hospitality business.
Right.
How did you get into this?
Well,
What's your background?
actually, my father, or our father, I'll say our, because
brothers.
I'm in business with my brothers. And our father originally, when I was a little boy, being Greek and all, he was in the shipping business.
Ah.
So I thought that I might become a ship owner. That was a very special thing to be.
Onassis.
Yeah. So my godfather was the godfather of shipping in this country, who baptized me. And when I was a little boy, he would take me downtown Broadway and go to the office, the shipping office. And by the time I was around 12 years old, he left the shipping business. Shipping business had taken a downturn and has been down generally for all these years since. Just recently with the trades with China and so on, that things have changed. But in the meantime, he left and he bought a restaurant in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn.
Ah.
Many people think that our family's from Brooklyn, but we grew up in Manhasset. My father was shipping, and he had us in Manhasset. I think we were the first Greeks in Manhasset.
Oh, that's so funny.
And as fact, my uncle was in Manhasset with a deli in 1930s.
Oh my God!
So who would think that we were from Manhasset from way back? So so what happened was he opened up this restaurant in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, and he wanted me to go to work. All the kids,
you were 12?
Yeah, 12 years old. All the kids in our neighborhood went to Florida. They went to here. They were off.
Not for
and
you.
my father thought I was a little bit of a wild kind of guy.
Right.
You know, I don't want me to have that idea. But I was always looking to take a little different step, so to speak. You know, I didn't follow the norm at that time, and even now, I suppose. And he says, you're coming to work. And at 12 years old, he had me working in the restaurant. And
now this was Pappas.
This was Pappas in Sheepshead Bay. It was a very famous restaurant.
Yeah,
he bought
absolutely.
it from the Pappas family, and this was the early 1960s. I don't want to give away my age, but it's early 1960s, and I had to make fun out of that and make enjoyment from that. So it turned out I had a blast. From that time, I would make my money on the weekends. I'd sleep over and meet people that he had other kids working in the restaurant that were from the neighborhood.
From Manhasset?
No.
Oh, from Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn
Sheepshead
neighborhood,
Bay.
yeah.
Okay.
And you know, here I grew up out here with the football field and all the grass, and over there I would visit my friend's school, and it would be with chain fences and so on and so forth.
Very different.
And I met their friends, and then there was a Greek community at the church that he had me involved in. I used to go on tours and so on and so forth. You know, we'd visit Washington, D.C., and this, that, and the other. But the basic thing was that I made my money, and I would shop for my own clothes from an early age.
You became independent.
Very, you know, and I would be having lunch with waiters that were from 25 years old to 75, 80 years old, dealing with union at the time. Dealing with racetrack guys and
different kind of life than you had in Manhasset.
Yeah, the guys that would, and there was a famous place next door called Lundy's.
Sure,
very famous.
Sure.
And when I'd have to go get something down the street, I have to pass the waiters that were drinking on the side of the building, and you know, Thunderbird wine and all that stuff.
Elegant.
So it was very classy. You know, but in the meantime, you know, it was a very, very busy restaurant. We didn't have air conditioning. We used to call it sea breezes. Oh, we have the sea breezes here. And you learned a lot. You learned a lot. You learned how to deal with people. You, when issues came up, you just innately, it just started. You know, they say a lot of people come from Brooklyn, did a lot of great things. The people that run the movie industry in California.
That's true.
In fact, my friend, there was 3 guys that hung out together, and one of them is the president and is head of 20th Century Fox today.
Is that amazing?
Jimmy Giannopoulos. We all danced in the Greek church together in the basement. You know, back at that time. But I really enjoyed working at that time. It gave me an insight into the business, and as time went on. And my father left there eventually, and I ended up in Rockefeller Center. He bought places in the Rockefeller Center.
Right.
And at that time I met your wife.
Right.
Years back, and so I worked in Rockefeller Center, and then afterwards we.
How old were you then?
I was about 25 years old.
So from 12 till 25, except for obviously going to school during the week,
Right.
you would be working in some aspect
I had
of the food business.
At one point, I went to Florida, and I lived in Florida for a few years, and it was the only time I was out of the restaurant business in my entire life. And I was in restaurant business, and I sold cars for a while.
Down in Florida.
I'm into cars, so I sold
Right.
cars, and then I came back to New York. My father was purchasing the lower level of the Time and Life building.
Right.
And I started working on it, and my brother was just getting out of school at the time, and then we started working on ideas about having our own business.
Right.
And
that was it. So your background is really from your experience of Hard Knocks.
right, exactly.
That's it. And you just looked and you saw and you observed. In some ways, you remind me of the immigrant.
In many ways.
You know that. You remind me
In
of the
many ways.
immigrant. You remind me of the guy who comes off the boat from Greece,
Right,
for example. It could be any place. From Greece, it could be from Poland, it could be anywhere.
Right.
And they come here and they look and they watch and they work and they wash the dishes. Then they see how they do this. They see how they order. They see how the foods they make.
Only it was done nicely.
It was done nicely.
We came from a nice Jewish neighborhood of Long Island. You know, when we were in Brooklyn, we had a lot of fun things to do, and came from. I went to a nice school here. I did go to college. I went to CW Post College. I went
Right.
to college in Greece. I lived in Europe for over a year, and that was a great experience. And it was after that after school that when we joined our father in his operation in Rockefeller Center, that my brother Dean said, I think we should do something on our own, because we always had all these ideas, he and I. And George was still a baby.
He's
at the
the
time.
youngest,
He was
right.
the youngest,
Some baby.
And, yeah, right. Big
He's a
baby.
giant.
I'm the shortest at 6'4".
God almighty.
So we found a place, and we started working it, and then we let that go. It's a quick thing in the worst neighborhood that there is in Jamaica, Queens.
Right.
It was a very rough area at the time, and we found something. We said, this way our parents will know that we're on our own. And then we went back to work in Rockefeller Center for our father, and then we said, you know what, let's look for a place. And I was looking in the city, and my brother was looking on Long Island, and he found a large. It was unusual for a kid. We were 25, he was 21, to be looking for big, huge restaurants. But we grew up in a big restaurant. My father's restaurant.
So you were comfortable in it.
We were comfortable. A 250-seat restaurant. Most people looked at the first restaurant to buy a little place, and we were very comfortable with that. And in fact, when my brother was asked by the broker, so how much money do you have? He said, listen, you find the place, I'll worry about the money, which is cute.
You see, but you see, it shows confidence.
Right.
It shows you all of you. You felt really good in what you were doing.
Right.
So this is a good characteristic about being successful. You weren't hesitant. You knew what you wanted.
We did. And actually what we really wanted at that time was to have a Pappas restaurant like my father had in Sheepshead Bay, out here in Rockland.
Which you did.
And that's what we.
I remember Pappas.
And that's
We
what
used to go
we
there all the
named it.
time.
We named
Of
it Pappas.
course, absolutely.
So that was how we started the ball rolling, and we were on our own. Many people thought it was our father's restaurant.
Exactly, I remember that.
And so then we started putting pictures up of ourselves, buying the fish in the Fulton Fish Market.
I remember those pictures.
And so if there was anything to discuss, any issues in the restaurant, that they knew that we were the ones that were getting up 4 o'clock in the morning. Actually, it was my brother that did the buying, and he was up very early in the morning and stayed there all day. And I would come in and open, and I'd close the store, and until we could afford a manager and work our way up.
Did you have a plan, or did you just say to yourself, I'm just going to do this one restaurant?
No, our
Did you have a plan?
At that time, our goal was to have that restaurant. Was very, very exciting for us. And then the next goal was to make it a beautiful restaurant.
So take the existing place
and make it into something, because it was what it was.
Right.
And but no matter what it was, with personality and great food and embracing and warmth, you have fun and people love to be with you and enjoy your services.
So you just answered my next question. Why do you think that restaurant became successful And you just said to me,
Exactly.
warm hospitality, generosity of spirit, getting to know who your clientele is, and don't treat anyone as a stranger.
Right. We had a great time. If they didn't have a table, I'd say, don't worry, we'll take care. I'll take care of it. Let me take it, and run with it, and people love that. So from there we went. What do you want to ask me?
Well, yeah. No. I will jump in because I have tons of questions for you. Right. So you took this one restaurant, and it was a seafood restaurant, basically.
Right.
And you took that seafood restaurant, and then you said because this is the next thing that I find fascinating. Right. So here are 3 young guys, and you learned from your father. I mean, he didn't sit down and say to you, okay, get your notebooks out. No. You watched, you looked. I mean, how is your brother going to know how to buy fish if he didn't watch your father or somebody buy the fish?
Right.
Okay? Otherwise, he would have gotten stuck with the old fish.
In fact, he was noted as one of the best fish buyers in the market in all of New York.
Who?
My brother Dean.
Okay, so there you go. But somebody had to show him somewhere along the way.
It was my father, and it was a fellow who's passed, George Mafogan, who ran the Oyster Bar on Grand Central Station, took him by the hand after my father had originally taken him by the hand.
Right.
And with that, he picked up on the rest of being the intuitive guy.
You said there are no mentors. You see that?
Well, it was a mentor for him.
Oh, cut it out. Oh, cut it out. Okay, everybody's a mentor to somebody, one way or another. Okay, so now you got this one restaurant, and you put all of your energies into it, and you fix it up, and you make it look really hotsy-totsy, and you change the name to it, and you make it into a nice, wonderful, top-scale restaurant, and it's terrific. It's great. But how does one go? And this is the killer to me. I'm taking one establishment and then getting a second one, then a third, then a fourth. Now, you can't be in the restaurant when the customer comes in and says, oh, don't worry, we're going to get you a table. How many restaurants are you going to go to that night to make sure that Mrs. Carbuncle gets a table? You can't do it. So now the trick comes in. How do you learn how to delegate? How do you learn that you've got the right manager? There's only 3 of you. And just with your restaurants alone, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 7, 8 restaurants. Then your brother's got. Then how do you learn to trust other people? How do you know when you got the right person to be your manager?
Well, first of all, it did not happen overnight.
Go ahead.
It took 28, 30 years.
Okay.
All right. We opened up our first restaurant in 1980.
Okay.
On Willis Avenue in Roslyn, called Pappas of Sheepshead Bay. And then it wasn't until around 1990 that it was changed to River Bay. And prior to that, we had our first designed restaurant was Bryant & Cooper.
Right.
We bought an old Monero steakhouse on Northern Boulevard in Roslyn, which ironically, when my father was slower in the winter months in Sheepshead Bay, because I was tall for my age and knew how to work, I took a job working in Monero's, which I now own.
At that spot, which you now own.
Which I now own. So that's like you see on the American Express ad,
Remember those, that's funny.
Remember
those onion rings Monero's had? They would drip down your arm, they were so greasy.
And we lived in Flower, my parents still live in Flower Hill.
Right.
And we would drive by that place. So we were on our way to visit our mother, and we were leaving Pappas at the time it was called.
Come right in front of it. You cut
and
right
we passed by. I said, the only place out here at the time was Luger's that had the name for steak. So we not only, if we did this, I said, let's open up and go against Luger's, go against the best name in steak, and let's make a New York steakhouse out here. And that's when we made Bryant & Cooper, and that was our first designed restaurant.
How'd you come up with the name?
My brother would call me. He'd call me. I was living in the city at the time. And he would call me and open up a book and give me names on the book. All these American. We couldn't make it Papadopoulos Steakhouse. So he would call me and give me American names. And at the time, when you asked me earlier on before we started the show about inspiration and mentors, and I guess I really did have one. When I was waiting for my father to open up in Rockefeller Center, and I had just come back from Florida, I worked in Thursdays, and Thursdays.
Remember that? Yeah.
And Thursdays was owned and operated by Alan Stillman and Ben Benson.
Sure.
Who now Ben Benson's, and Alan Stillman has Smith and Wolinski's.
Forget it.
And I later lived on 49th Street by Smith and Wolinski's.
Yeah.
And I said, and my brother, after being in the fish market, he would on Monday nights go into the city, and he and I both ate at all the steakhouse. I was living in the city at the time, so that was my neighborhood, and we always wanted to bring New York to Long Island, and that's where it was the Smith and Walensky's that kind of. So then we decided to go two names, and he comes across a page that said, William Cullen Bryant, the poet, from Roslyn. Bryant. And his buddy Peter Cooper, Cooper Union Square, an inventor, politician. I said, gee, these guys did good. You know? And here they were, the two of them, Bryant and Cooper, and it's from Roslyn. So that's where we got. And I have a picture in Bryant and Cooper now of that page with the two elderly gentlemen, you know, the poet and the inventor with their long beards. Back in the 1800s. And
where is it, in the bar?
No, it's just on the way to the ladies' room.
In the
No, it's in a hallway, in the entrance hallway. But that's a good question, you know, how we got that name.
It seems to me that there's a couple of things here. You know, you're all pretty independent guys. And you come from a very strong Greek background when the father has got one of these big rules with a firm fist.
Well, it's really my mother. But
your mother? Okay, yeah. Doesn't matter. Same thing. Yeah. And he dragged you in, 12 years old, to go work.
No, he is a big guy.
But it seems to me that you had a very good advantage, and it reminds me of my father. I'm not quite sure how you would have done it alone. Probably could have. But you had your brothers to bounce things off of each other.
Oh, we spoke every besides in our working relationship at night, we would just stay on the phone together, even if we didn't say anything. We'd wait until whatever was going to come out next. Yeah.
So it was very important to have that relationship in a partner. If you can't trust your brother, who can you trust?
We would stay up at night and envision what we were going to do there one day on the first restaurant. Yeah.
What do you think has been your biggest obstacle into creating your dreams?
Well, you know,
the biggest hump you had to get over?
Not being in debt.
Not being
in debt.
In
debt. You know, many people have different avenues of growing. Many people take in investors, many people join groups, and so on and so forth.
Syndicate.
You know, right. And, you know, in this way, we were very old-fashioned. We wanted to fix that one place, and we took a loan. We did the loan, and spent the money, and the place wasn't. When we had the place done, whatever we were going to do at that time.
That's for Pappas.
Yeah,
the original.
And then we still owed like another great sum of money, almost double what we originally started with, and we didn't even know how that happened. So the people were saying, "Where's the money?" We said, "We don't have any left." My brother says, "Listen, they can't take the nails out of the wall. You know, we just have to pay everybody." So we were always honorable guys, and this was in the early '80s when some people built buildings like that, and they took advantage of builders. And then the next time around, we did pay everybody, and at the same time, that's when we took on the purchase of Mineros in order to make it into Bryant & Cooper, which was really daring because we were tapped, and we went to our family, and they really extended themselves, you know, and so we're very fortunate in that respect that, you know, it was a family effort, even though it was our plate, you know. My mother put a house on the line. You know?
Wow, she believed in you guys.
Yeah, and that's why I say my mother. Guys. And so with that, we worked so hard because we never wanted to ever jeopardize what
trust.
You know, right? And so you know, we stayed there day and night, and always have taken everything very, very seriously. And it was very hard because you work in the day and you're smiling and greeting everybody, and you know that you got to pay. Yeah, showtime. And you work all day to prepare for showtime. Then you have your show, and then you go to sleep at night worrying about whether you're going to pay the electric bill. And I used to have to run up to Lilco and say, "Please turn on the lights."
Right.
You know? I mean, we had really, really tight times, very, very tight times, that no one ever really new. They see us now, or knock
They
on
think
wood.
they think it came easy.
And right, and we really, I could write a book on
Oh,
what it came,
I'll bet you can.
Yeah.
I'll bet you can. What might you have done differently if you could do it over again?
Nothing that I everything that we did, I've asked myself that sometimes. And of course, in hindsight, you look and you see how real estate markets have, we did buy that real estate originally, and that's what helped us get loans so we can keep on growing. In hindsight, I could say, I wish I bought a couple of buildings in Manhattan, but I mean,
right.
And had our rest. But, everything that we did, and I'm proud of what we did, and
it just keeps going.
And it just keeps going, and it's been working out very.
Here's
very
a question
nicely.
I need to ask you. When I mentioned this before the show, you have a wonderful talent in being able to really know your audience. It's gut, it's scientific. It's not scientific. It's gut. It's experiential. Here's my point. I mean, okay, so you started out with what you know best, peppers. That's what you had. You did it again. You were familiar with it. Then you jump into a steakhouse. You had nothing to do with a steakhouse. Maybe you sold hamburgers at Pappas, or maybe you had a steak, but everything was fish. Everything was seafood. Now you're going into a whole other world. And true, you watch Stillman and Benson and all that stuff, and these are top guys. And you're doing, and you're taking a chance. So, but it worked. It worked. The area wanted it. The area was hungry for it.
Yes.
So much so today that it's Steakhouse Row. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well,
Who knows better than you?
I think we inspired those to come.
But you did. You did. It's not unlike Hargrave Vineyards inspiring everyone to build wineries out in Long Island.
Right.
So, but the point is, then from there you jump, and then you got the Italian, then you got the Asian, then you're going to go to French. You're very confident, and you feel really good about your expansion, and you know your people, because the people gravitate. Every one of the people that comes to your restaurant, they feel that they've been satisfied. I'm not saying, hey, we got a good dinner. It's more than that. There's a sense that you know who the people are that want to come to you, and you know how to make them feel, the best word again is satisfied. But you got to have the vision to do this, because you might say to yourself, gee, I think what we need here right now is a Cambodian restaurant that's going to do the job. Ain't going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work. You seem to know.
Well,
Talk to me about that.
Well, from a young boy, from working in Sheepshead Bay, so it's more or less a city environment, and the things that I would see, we went to teen discos at the time that served orange juice,
Right.
and I would sneak on the train and go to New York City and the Electric Circus, and all of and growing in the Studio 54 days, and and all our generation, the places that I was there, and I watched this, and I watched how the people, the beautiful restaurants in the city that I was there from the beginting.
So you had it all. Listen, I don't want to cut you, but we got 30 seconds left.
Oh, from the whole show?
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
So it was, and it turned out, because these locations were close by, we had to be creative and come up with new concepts. It wasn't just a rollout. I couldn't have 10 steakhouses in the area. We already had a few.
Right.
So that's
Wouldn't
where
make any
that's where the creativity came in.
Gil, I got to tell you something. The best compliment I can give you is that I learned something from you. So that's the best compliment I can give you.
Well, we love having you at the restaurant.
Just as long as you don't serve me on a platter. But anyway, it's just terrific. You're a wonderful guy. You're a bright guy. You got your eyes open all around your head. You see everything left and right. And you're a terrific guy. You come back again, and other times we'll do some. We'll show you. We'll do some cooking and stuff like that.
We'll cook something great for you.
You got that. Okay. Gil Polis, thank you very much. Terrific. Keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing it great.
Thank you.
And I hope you got a lot out of it. And learn from this man, and learn from his passion, because without passion, what's the use, right?
Follow the dream.
Follow the dream. Dr. Pass is saying, dream on and do it. See you again next time. Put it there, Gil. Enjoy yourself.